What do you say to the granny state? My self-described group of people who either won't listen or, oh, I can't lose my job. Bitcoin sounds crazy. I'm not going to lose my job over that. Dude, I'm trying to pull you into the future. And by the way,
this is so hard, Booch. Look, this is Upton Sinclair quote. It is impossible to convince somebody of something when their livelihood depends on them not understanding it, right? Absolute, that's the problem. And to your point, okay, Jamie Dimon, it's a fraud. Yet his own firm puts out a 196-page report saying it's the future of finance. Then Warren, it's rat poison squared. But Charlie, not to be outdone, says Bitcoin is like trading in newly harvested dead baby brains. What the fuck, Charlie? Newly harvested dead baby brains? What the? I mean, seriously, why does he say that?
Let's be constructive and cheerful about this. Look, I think we're winning the battle, right? I mean, if you look at every single critic, you could make a list of 100 critics of Bitcoin and digital property over the past 5 years.
Battle.
Right? I mean, you know, Larry Fink was a rampant critic, and he's starting to sound like an advocate now. Blankfein, you know, David Solomon, right? The presidents of and the heads of every major bank, they've all flipped. First, they embrace it with analysis. Then they'll, you know, Ken Griffin was a critic, and now he's flipped to start trading it, right? So all the major Wall Street hedge funds and the major banks and the major regulators were much more critical 24 months and 36 months ago than they are today. I think I would approach the skeptics and I would say, look, Joe Biden says that it's really important to 40 million Americans. Yeah, what do you think about? Generally, the president has a lot of power, Anthony, right? I've noticed the presidents of the United States are able to encourage all sorts of behaviors. Some of them I don't even, advocate, but they have a lot of power. And I think you could go and say, look, Janet Yellen, who's the Secretary of the Treasury, hear her words. I mean, if you look at what I tweeted before I got on this call, I grabbed that 97 seconds, of fame that we started the show with, and I grabbed Yellen's quote. The quote is, "Crypto has grown by leaps and bounds and is now playing a significant role in the investment decisions of lots of Americans. We would like to create a regulatory environment in which healthy innovation can continue." That is Janet Yellen to Andrew Ross Sorkin this morning. Okay, so I think you've got two sets of people. You've got the people that kind of think for themselves and they derive from first principles. They have to have a certain educational background, a certain life background, and they got to invest anywhere from 10 to 100 hours. And to those people, you say, hey, you think for yourself and you're pretty smart. Would you like to make $1 billion? If so, I need you to spend 10 to 100 hours. If you're just so rich that the opportunity cost of your time is higher and you don't want to invest 100 hours to make $1 billion, then I guess you can go focus on something else. That's what I would say to them, right? And there's another group of people that don't really like to strike out on their own, and they like to follow what their leaders tell them. And that means very powerful politicians and institutional leaders and leaders in Wall Street. And to them, I would say, well, I made a list of every Wall Street leader in the past 12 months that flipped their tune. Remember when Ray Dalio said, oh, it's so good the government's going to ban it? And then you're like, but then guess what? The government said they're going to actually embrace it. Okay, there's Ray. We got him. You remember when Larry Fink said this is an index of money laundering? And then, oh, yeah, well, he said that before he said, well, it looks like it's going to change the world in his shareholder letter. You remember when Michael Saylor bought nearly $4 billion, like 3.95 something billion dollars of Bitcoin. By the way, Anthony, I am like 1,000% committed. I started with 400 million of capital and I managed to buy 4 billion in Bitcoin. I don't believe in 5% allocation or 60% allocation. I believe in 500% allocation. So the Michael Saylor dude in 2013 said, it's only a matter of time before this stuff goes the way of online gambling. It's going away. The world's full of skeptics that flip their tune. There would be 24 of them. In fact, you can, if I were you, because you're more organized than me and you're a professional, and I just get on Crypto Banter and I ramble. If I was you, I'd make a list of like 50 billionaires or 50 CEOs of $100 billion banks. And I would say, this is the list of people that were skeptical. And then they became supporters, enthusiasts.
Yeah.
By the way, Janet Yellen, I parsed the quote, but if you read the entire 97 seconds, she says, of course I was initially skeptical, but now I understand, right? Andrew Ross Sorkin. I can make a list of 100 influential, powerful, wealthy people that were skeptical, that are enthusiastic. You ought to just like serve up that list. These are all the people, and then you say, you're right, you should be skeptical. They didn't become enthusiastic until they spent 10 to 100 hours. And if you're that rational thinker, you should start skeptical and then do the work if it's worth money to you. If you have, why don't certain people that are in their 80s or 90s with $100 billion, why don't they do the work? Well, the answer is no character flaw on their part. No offense, but when I'm 95 years old, I'm not going to be spending 500 hours trying to figure out the next telepathic form of money. I'm going to be relaxing. And if you poke me and say, what do you think about telepathic money that comes out of like fungi that we, called in a DNA amplified petri dish? I'm going to be like, it sounds like something scary to me. I'm not a big fan. Mm-hmm. And then somebody will run a thing saying 95-year-old Saylor didn't endorse my telepathic money. But the point is, like, just don't poke the bear, right?
Yeah.